Welcome to the NAIA's Champions of Character video series, a series dedicated to the student athletes, coaches, and parents at every level of competition. This series will benefit you whether you're involved in intercollegiate athletics or youth sports, in helping you understand your role and how you can create a better experience for all those involved. As we look at the NAIA's Character Initiative, it is based on the creation of awareness, the promotion of education, and encouraging community involvement to bring this message to everyone involved in sports in your community. As you listen to Bruce Brown, NAI Special Presenter, we think you will see why it is good to be a champion of character.
The Champions of Character has 5 core values, and we're going to use those 5 core values to redefine the term athlete. That's what this purpose of this presentation is. So I want to ask you to kind of think right now, what is the title that you use on your campus for players who are the most valued in your program, the ones who represent your community the best? What title is applied to those people? Is it a player? Is it an MVP? Is it a great teammate? Is it a great athlete? Is it a warrior? What do you call somebody when you really want to give them a compliment in your program? The more you have invested in athletics, the more this particular presentation will mean to you. It's not a philosophical statement, but rather it's specific areas where you personally can evaluate and specifically do things to improve you as an athlete and your team. One of the things I do when I go to campuses is I ask, how many athletes on your campus? And most kids at the start of this presentation have an idea of the number of people that participate in athletics. And then as we go through the definition of what an athlete in the NAI looks like, then they kind of rethink the number of athletes that are there. How many times do we hear, every day we hear, as a matter of fact, so-and-so is a great athlete, he or she is a great athlete. Just listen to ESPN Sports Center any night and we hear that term great athlete thrown around very easily and very casually. And most of the time it is directed toward people who have a very high level of physical skill. People who have moved fluidly, score goals, tall, strong, quick, all the things that are not necessarily things that they have control over. Matter of fact, those are all God-given gifts that they have no control over at all. And what we're trying to do is to say coaches who refer to that kind of a person as a great athlete while overlooking their best effort and their best attitude are really doing that person a disservice for their entire life. If they're overlooking those best effort and their best attitude, they're settling for less than the person is capable of doing. Being an athlete involves a lot more than having physical skills. And what we're going to talk about is the things that you do have control over as an athlete, the things that you have complete control over, in other words, your effort and your attitude, or character issues. Please don't consider yourself an athlete simply because you've been blessed with some physical skill. I'm going to redefine the term athlete because it does need to be a special term for special people. As a college coach and as an athletic director, we get to hand pick who we want. We get to go out into society and go, we want that one and that one and that one, and nothing to do with that one. And what I'm encouraging coaches to do is to look for the right combination of skill and attitude when they're choosing their squad. You can tell coaches, be very careful. Try not to choose people who are not athletes under this definition. If you can identify and choose players of character, coaches have a lot better chance to stay in the profession for a long time. Coaches who don't choose athletes of character end up not staying with the profession for an extended period of time, and their job doesn't last as long as most people would like to stay in the profession. I want you to check yourself on a series of examples we're going to use and ask yourself, which category do you fall into? Because it's very clear. You're either one or the other. There's very little gray area. Hopefully, I'm going to challenge you to do a little bit of self-examination, to think where you can evaluate yourself. But at the same time, when I'm giving these descriptions, ask yourself, where do I fit, but how would I rate my teammates? And how would my teammates evaluate me? Where would they place me? The 2 categories that I'm going to focus on with each of the core values is whether you're an athlete, what a description of an athlete looks like, and a person who's a non-athlete. And not very long ago I was presenting and I used the term non-athlete, and a friend of mine came up to me and she said, don't use the term non-athlete. She said, use the term a person who hasn't learned to be an athlete yet, because it is a series of choices that they can learn at that moment if they so choose. I'm going to talk about each of the core values, and I'm going to give you one example under each of the core values. On the sheet that you've got, there are about 16 or 17 examples under the different ones. But please listen to these and decide where you fit. If you want to improve your team, improve yourself. Improve yourself as a person. Under the core value of respect, the example I'm going to use is a person who has a teachable spirit. If you're an athlete, you have a teachable spirit. What does that look like? And what does yours look like? In coaching terms, it's simple as this. It means you are coachable. You can take correction as a compliment. That's a huge concept right there. I can take correction as a compliment. It's a form of confidence itself, and it's a reflection on the amount of respect that you have for the coach. I can take correction as a compliment. Here's what it looks like. When a player is corrected, and any of you who choose to be in athletics are choosing to be corrected, it comes with the territory. So when a player is corrected, their body language and their voice says, "Thanks, coach, for caring enough about me that you think I'm capable of being better." That's all it is. That they look at the person with their eyes and their ears, and they're giving them enough contact with their eyes and their ears, and also with their voice, and saying, "Thanks, coach, for loving me enough. You think I'm capable of being better." The person who's not an athlete yet, they're seldom, when it comes to taking a correction, they haven't learned how to do it yet. And they're seldom a good team member. Very seldom are these people a good team member. They're very often too important to admit that they've made a mistake and that they don't know anything, that they don't know everything. These people are thinking, I know everything and I don't really need to be corrected. Anytime they get corrected, see if you know anybody like this. See if you can recognize this in people in your team or people you've seen. When they take correction, it's usually felt as self-criticism or that they're being picked on. The first thing out of a non-athlete's mouth is usually an excuse. So when you go to practice and you listen, kind of just categorize, athlete or non-athlete based upon a teachable spirit. Can they take correction as a compliment, saying, "Thanks, coach"? Or is the first thing out of their mouth, "Well, I thought she was going to. Or the sun got in my eyes, the floor is slippery, the referees made a bad decision." Excuse makers are not athletes. Do any of these descriptions fit you? Are you an athlete or not when it comes to having a teachable spirit? How do your teammates rate you? Everybody's accountable for their decisions and their choices. And skills are often out of your control, but this is something you have complete control over. And if you have complete control over it, it's changeable, and it's changeable in a very quick manner. Under the core values of respect and responsibility is the one I want to focus on, but kind of a combination of respect and responsibility, is what pride looks like on an athlete. And pride's a tough one. Pride's a difficult one to talk about, because pride is something that is not easily described. But as simply as I can find a definition of pride on an athlete, it's this. They experience the shared joy of the inner circle. That's what the good kind of pride is on an athlete. The shared joy of the inner circle is something that nobody on the outside will ever understand or experience. It's something that only the people on the inner circle of that team know what it's taken to get where they are. Everybody on the outside may come, they may encourage you, they may be at every one of your games, but they never really feel the shared joy of the inner circle because of all the sacrifices and work that you've done to get where you are. On good teams, the shared joy of the inner circle is felt by the athletes. On great teams, the shared joy of the inner circle is felt by athletes and coaches. They're all in there. They're all in there. The coaches and athletes are in that inner circle together. The athlete has pride in the very best sense of the word. It's pride based upon unselfishness. They can be counted on. It's pride based on ownership of their own behavior. They are accountable. In most sports, team sports anyway, pride is felt in the parts of the game that require more effort than skill. Think about that. More effort than skill. My basketball teams that had the best shared joy of the inner circle were basketball teams who could stop you on the defensive end. The defensive end requires more effort and determination than skill. And those people have a shared joy that is never felt, a lot of times by teams that don't put it in on the determination end of the game. The good kind of pride is never felt by poorly disciplined teams. That good kind of shared joy, poorly disciplined teams don't ever experience that, especially if those teams are made up of selfish individuals who practice or prepare carelessly and with no passion. I don't have very many nevers in my life, but I'm going to give you a couple of them today during these presentations. Here's one of them. You'll never find good team pride or a great team when the leaders of that team put individual ability or winning above character. It just will not exist. The person who has not learned how to be an athlete yet, when it comes to pride, it's a false pride. It's a fake kind of a pride. And with their words and their actions, they're saying, look at me, I need some attention here. And that false pride comes and goes with wins and losses. You've seen this where they win and it's we're the greatest, and they lose and we got robbed, we're no good. That false pride comes and goes, and it's attached to outcome of games instead of the shared joy of the inner circle. Here's another thing that pride is not. Pride is not arrogance. And pride is not a sense of entitlement. A sense of entitlement is a bad term, and if it's attached to your name, that's not a compliment, especially if you're an athlete. It simply means this. A sense of entitlement means that you have a feeling that you need special treatment, or that because you're an athlete, it serves as a guarantee of special privileges. You don't have to look very far in the professional sports to find people who have a sense of entitlement. But we don't have to look very far in youth sports to see 12-year-old kids who developed a sense of entitlement because they have a different set of rules applied to them by their coaches because we might lose without them. And they're allowed to do things that other athletes aren't. And they're learned at a very early age, I deserve special treatment. Normal rules should not apply to me because I happen to be born tall or fast or coordinated. And so I get special treatment and special rules. That's not pride. That's not the good kind of pride. Is your pride on your team and in you individually, is it based upon the shared joy of the inner circle? Or is the pride at your school based upon arrogance or a sense of entitlement that you have some kind of a special treatment coming your way? Is demonstrating and having the right kind of pride something that's easy to do? Absolutely, it's a choice. It shows respect for your team. It shows respect for your coach. It shows respect for your opponents. And it shows respect for the game that you've chosen to play, as well as yourself. Under the core value of sportsmanship, I want to focus on discipline and what discipline looks like on an athlete. Sportsmanship is really a key factor in this entire program. And it says there's so many attributes that get focused under sportsmanship, but discipline is a positive thing. So let's look what discipline looks like on an athlete. All discipline is focused attention and effort. And when discipline is balanced with love, it's involved in every success. The athlete sees the bigger picture when it comes to discipline. The real athlete sees the bigger picture. They understand in order to be successful both individually and collectively, the sacrifices of discipline have to be made. Here's a big step. The athlete not only accepts discipline, they embrace it. They not only accept it, but they embrace it for the benefit of the team. Some examples of positive discipline besides sportsmanship are the discipline of enthusiasm, the discipline of being energized, the discipline of respecting authority, the discipline of personal responsibility. For an athlete, having fun is being good. Not having fun is being silly. And discipline's involved in that. For the person who hasn't learned to be an athlete yet, when it comes to discipline, you see those all over the place. To them, discipline's a dirty word. It's often thought of in terms of punishment. And usually results in feeling sorry for yourself or feeling like that I need to resist discipline. Another sign of a person who hasn't learned to be an athlete when it comes to discipline is temper. A person who lacks positive discipline, often it comes out in the form of temper. If you're an athlete, do not confuse anger and frustration with being competitive. Anger and frustration are wasted energy. Visible anger discourages your teammates and encourages your opponents. It doesn't give you any competitive edge at all. Emotion is great when it's used in a positive way, but temper is emotion out of control. And it finds a way, when it's emotion out of control, it finds a way to damage both the individual and the team. Great competitors, the real athlete, can focus and channel their emotion in a way that helps their own performance as well as the performance of their